Hey, everybody, it's Ryan from Rocky Mountain Cigar Show, and welcome to the Smoke In Studios here at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. You know, Kevin, I envy you. You say a certain intro every single week. I have yet to even hit that mark one time. I
What's
don't
going
know.
on, everybody? I'm Kevin from Cigar Prop, and I am coming to you live from the Drew Estate Experience Asset Studios here on the sunny Gulf Coast of Florida. And I am proud to be the co-host of tonight's show with my good buddy Ryan of Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. If you're watching this on the Cigar Prop YouTube channel or Facebook page, make sure you check the links and make sure you're giving Ryan and the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show a follow and a subscribe.
I appreciate that. And if for some reason anybody's watching me that doesn't already watch and follow Kevin, please give him a follow and a subscribe. And if you're looking for some really, really intimately funny TikTok shorts, it doesn't get better than Kevin sitting there with no hat on, no glasses, and just him in the back room of his mechanic shop talking about the stanky leg. So
yeah, they're usually a lot of poop conversations. I have a lot of poop. So it is what it is.
Absolutely. And so, but Kevin, how long did it take you to remember to do that intro? Because you do it now flawless. I am like 4 or 5 weeks in, and I still forget to do it every single time.
One time.
Oh,
they're just if you go back to like my very first, which I don't think it's still up, but my very first YouTube cigar review ever, I said the same opener and closer in that very first video that I did in my very last cigar review I had ever done. So yeah, I click on one thing and then bam, it's there forever. And then other things I can't remember for shit. You know, like the important things like kids' birthdays and things like that. I have no idea, you know, what things. But yeah, it's the weird things that I remember.
Well, again, thank you so much, Kevin, for joining. We're gonna do just a little bit of show updates here before we bring on our amazing guest. I can't even believe we get to have somebody of his caliber and his stature and demeanor to come on. He is a war vet. He is a hero, a national hero in many different avenues, both in law enforcement and in the military. He started a charity, but before we get to him, Kevin, we are having a big charity event this year for actually Shadow Warriors Project, which is who Mark Oz Geist is the president of that foundation. And it's on July 21st. I'm going to flash up the banner here. So this is benefiting Shadow Warriors Project. It's Friday, July 21st. We got an extra hour over what we got last year. Tickets are still going to be only $150 a person. You're going to have everything included with that ticket. There's no reason to bring any money at all unless you want to partake into the auction itself. All proceeds and everything goes straight to Shadow Warriors Project. And it's going to have appetizers, open bar, complimentary cigars. Last year, we gave out 9 cigars with that ticket. Commemorative challenge coin. We're also going to be doing this glass again. Let's see here if I can show this. Wrong camera. This glass again. And it's going to be sponsored by Axe and Oak. So you're going to see Axe and Oak on the back side of this as well. So definitely come out. It's at a castle. Scan the QR code if you're going to be in Colorado on July 21st, or you're looking for a reason to come out. This is definitely going to be a fantastic event. Mark's going to be there. He's going to be speaking, and we have a lot of fun things lined up. So you can scan that QR code or just go to eventbrite.com, search Rocky Mountain Cigar Night, and I hope to see you all there. So, but well, let me give some sponsor shout outs here, and then we'll get right. You know what's throwing me off is I have you on the screen right now.
Yeah.
I'm not used to that. Like, so when I get off, I just want to address you. But big shout out to BAMF Cigars. Big shout out to ROCF. Oh, go ahead.
Me?
What?
You get off, you want to address me? What?
No, when I get off of talking, I want to address you.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We can take that off.
Back to BAMF.
Yeah, we can take that off. We can talk more about that privately. But anyways, so BAMF Cigars, ROCF Cigars, Kristoff Cigars, K by Karen Berger. If you don't have their cigar passport, definitely check it out. And Kevin and I will talk a little bit more about that at the end of the show. There's the passport right there. Take it. You can sign into all the different. Give everyone a quick little breakdown.
You get this, you do things, you get cigars. We'll talk about it later.
Perfect. Awesome. May 5th, if you're here in Colorado, Smoking Cave Cigar Lounge. Both Karen and Bruce will be there. I will be there as well. New Air Humidors, Sagrado Cigars, Micallef Cigars, Big Sky Cigars, Cornell and Diehl Pipe Tobacco, and big announcement here. Let me go ahead and bring Mark on before I do it. We have a new show sponsor. And if you're looking at the shirt in the background, I'm sure you can figure it out. But let's go ahead and bring in the guest of the hour, the man of the night, Mark Oz Geist. How you doing, Mark?
Doing wonderful. How you guys doing? Good to see you.
Absolutely.
Doing good. Good to see you, man.
You did bring me in at that time, something about undressing. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a surprise. I don't know. It's weird.
Okay.
It's gonna get weird.
So
whiskey and brothers, hey, you never know where to go.
Absolutely. But Mark here, I'm gonna give you the floor. Go ahead and introduce yourself, say hi, give a little insight into Shadow Warriors Project, how people can find your information. I will update in my details, but they are in Kevin's details. So I'll give you the floor, Mark.
Hey, just want to say hello to everybody out there. My name's Mark Geist. A lot of you might know me as Oz. I been carrying a gun, protecting this nation for about 40 years. Started in 1984 when I joined the Marine Corps. Got out in 96, become a deputy sheriff up in Teller County, Colorado. And then moved from there to a chief of police in a small town. After that, I guess I'd have to say me and city council kind of had a disagreement on how law enforcement should be enforced. I figure it's fair no matter who you are. Some people like to have special privileges, but guess when I arrest the wrong person, sometimes you get in trouble for that. But that's just the way it is. So I then started my own business doing bounty hunting and bail bonds in Pueblo, Colorado. Did that for about 3 years. And when the war kicked off in 2001, 2002, I started trying to get into working overseas and started in 2003 working as a private security contractor for the State Department, protecting diplomats around the world, mostly in Iraq. Then ended up training a bunch of Iraqis in military SWAT teams and emergency response units, and then ended up finishing my career as a contractor working for the infamous company, the CIA, also known as the Culinary Institute of America, and ended up in Benghazi, Libya on September 11th, 2012, where if anybody's above the age of 25 probably knows something about it. Attack on our consulate. We lost 4 individuals. 2 of them was the ambassador and his assistant, Sean Smith. And then later that night, or actually it was early the next morning, 2 of the 2 guys that were other contractors working with me got killed next to me when 3 mortars hit the top of the rooftop, blew me up, blew them up. And that was kind of, I guess that's the short version of what happened that night. That's 13 hours and 13 minutes or less.
Wow. That's yeah. When you and I had dinner together with Tony and Chad, that was very interesting to kind of hear that entire story and really how it played out. Let's kind of back up here. What made you? How did you get your start into going into law enforcement, and then what brought on the urge to go into the military?
It's probably my grandfather. My grandfather was my hero. He was a World War II veteran, tank commander, had the North Africa Campaign Medal, had 5 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Bronze Star, had 3 uncles that served in the military, 2 in the Navy, 1 in the Marine Corps. 1 in the Marine Corps, served 2.5 tours in Vietnam. Got shot down a couple times, but survived, made it back home. And I think that sense of service was just something that's always been in me. And so I joined the Marine Corps. I actually joined probably 6 or 8 months before I actually went to boot camp on the delayed entry program. 6 days after I graduated high school, I was standing on some yellow footprints at MCRD San Diego, getting my head shaved and
Wow.
having a Marine sitting about 3 inches from my face, screaming and yelling at me. And I thought I was in paradise.
Why the Marines?
It's the best one out there, the hardest one, and they got the best looking uniforms. I need all the help I can get.
All right. Yeah, I've got friends that are Marines, SEALs, Army Rangers, and like I said, I hear it all. Who's ultimately the best? But yeah.
Well, Mark, isn't it true if you go through the Marine boot camp, you can go to any other branch and not have to relive that boot camp?
That's the way it kind of works. Any of the others have to go through our boot camp, and it's a lot of it. It's just it's what they distill in you from day one when you put your feet on them footprints is, and you can call it reprogramming, you can call it whatever you want, but it's making guys hard, tough, and loving this country who want to go out and serve it and protect it and go fight those monsters that really are out there that most people don't want to see and don't want to fight.
So when you in the Marines, where did you serve when you were in the Marines overseas?
Most of it was in the Far East. I was stationed in the Philippines for about 1.5 years. 2 years I was all over the Middle East or the Far East for the first part of my career. The second part of my career, I transferred out of the infantry and out of a sniper platoon into being an interrogator translator. Marine Corps felt the need to send me to language school. I learned Persian Farsi, which is what they speak in Iran and Afghanistan, and went to school out in Monterey, California for that, and become an interrogator, and just kind of did whatever they needed me to do wherever it needed to be done.
So what was your experience like going back as a independent contractor, security I mean, what are the differences in just everything that you do?
A lot of it is, one is, especially as a Marine, as we all know, they're an offensive fighting force. As a contractor, you're there for defensive purposes only. And that's really, a lot of people talk about the contractors and mercenaries. We're not mercenaries. A mercenary is somebody who will fight for anybody for any amount of money. And no doubt there's some of them working over in Ukraine right now. But I was working under a U.S. government contract for U.S. State Department, as well as the CIA. And, that's probably one of the biggest differences. And the other one would be, most of us, I never worked with a team that traveled together. In the Marine Corps, you're in a unit, same with the Army and the Air Force, or especially the Army. You're in a unit that you kind of bond and work together, fight together, go to war together, come back home. Your families usually know each other because you guys have them barbecues, get together, have a drink, smoke a cigar. But as a contractor, most of the guys I never worked with most of the guys before, whether that was with Triple Canopy or with training Iraqi SWAT teams, or eventually with the CIA when I was in Benghazi. I knew the other guys, but I never worked with them. We weren't a team that came in, and that changes the dynamics.
That's what I was wondering, how the dynamics are. When you live, eat, breathe, sleep with your guys, 24/7 versus joining a group of guys, are you always having to watch, it's that thought of, does that person have my back? It's like, do they really?
We all go through the same training and the same vetting process. And the vetting process is it's pretty stringent. And, you better be able to shoot, better be able to run, you better be at top, especially for the agency, you better be at the top tiers of those levels of fitness and shooting and capabilities. And, that trust factor is not really there because it's that professional soldier, that professional Marine that comes in there, and it doesn't matter who the guy is, you're going to work with him and you're going to have his back because we're working in small groups. I mean, like in Benghazi, there were 6 of us. A lot of times it was just me and a case officer, or me, one other contractor and a case officer out in town, juking and jiving and trying to stay undercover and stay out away from the bad guys. And if you didn't trust each other, didn't work together well, then you weren't going to make it back.
Now, what do you mean a case officer? I'm not familiar with that term. What is
a case officer is? That's those people that go to Harvard and all them Ivy League schools that the CIA goes out and hires because they're so smart and so intelligent. And I'm just busting on them, but they're great people. I mean, they have a job to do and they do a great job of it. I got to give shout out to everyone I've worked with, and they put their lives on the line. They do a lot of stuff for this country, and we wouldn't be where we're at doing what we are if it wasn't for a bunch of good Americans who just want to serve this country.
I got one more follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to turn it back to you. Like I said, it was this is years and years going back. You heard about, like the independent contractors, and there was bad things going on. And they got really a bad rap. And you don't hear that much more, any more of it, it seems like. What would your case be? I know we need independent contractors. Our military can't do everything in its own. What would you tell people that question whether we need independent contractors overseas or not?
I'll give you a history lesson, and that's probably the best example.
Perfect.
And I'll ask the question to you guys. Who do you think was the very first military contractor to the U.S. military? And when?
Military contractor?
It was World War I, wasn't it?
No. Better go back a couple hundred years.
1976. Oh, Revolutionary. Okay.
Yep. George Washington hired General Lafayette, officer, to come train the U.S. troops. There's your first military contractor, private military contractor. We've had them in every war, no matter where it's at, when it is. The difference is the Iraq War and Afghanistan, it really kind of bloomed up bigger because of the size of the conflict and the location. And we moved from just being the rear echelon services to that training element again, going back to the roots from 1776, 1775, training the Iraqi forces, training the Afghan forces, because that's not an offensive capability. That's a defensive capability. We can go do that. And it's taking guys who have had, 10, 12, 15, 18, 20 some odd years in the military, passing that knowledge on to other young war fighters that are going to serve their own country. And our troops, it frees up more men and women to go out there and freaking bring hate to the enemy who's trying to kill us and take us out. So that's the main reason for it. And you're always going to have your bad apples. I mean, everything has their 10%, and it's just a matter of making sure you have the right people, the discipline, the dedication and the love for what you're doing, and not just doing it for that dollar.
No, that makes
total sense.
The way you described it was a complete understanding of the difference between a mercenary and a professional soldier. That professional soldiers got to have that conviction to fight for what he believes in versus just fighting for the almighty dollar. Before we get any further in, Mark, I know you're not smoking a cigar tonight, but what are you drinking tonight?
Just a little bit of Basil Hayden.
Oh, that's a very, very good bourbon. And this whole segment, so this is going to be a new thing for us. This is brought to you by Dunbarton, and I just wanted to kind of flash this up here. Dunbarton Tobacco Trust is our new show sponsor. And Kevin, what are you smoking tonight for the show?
Why didn't you tell me ahead of time, and I would have grabbed a Dunbarton cigar? I'm not on my show, so I can smoke whatever I want. So in honor of our guest tonight, and in honor of J.C. Newman, today, I think it was, I forget what it was. They posted today, like 138 years ago today, whatever it was. The very first Cuban cigar was rolled in Ybor City, Tampa, Florida. So I am smoking the American by J.C. Newman in honor of our guest tonight. J.C. Newman, fantastic cigar made with the wrapper leaf from the Florida Sun-Grown Farm in Claremont, Florida, from our good friends Jeff Borschwitz over at Corona Cigar.
Fantastic. I have not had the privilege of having that one, but it's a J.C. Newman, so it's at least guaranteed to be great. Tonight, I am for the first time smoking the Sin Compromiso Paladin de Saka myself, and I am smoking it with a little bit of the Dreamstream barrel-aged gin. So it's actually going really well. So great. So this was the first one. I meant to do this at the beginning. I'm razzled. Okay, I've got a lot of things going on. So we'll get better at throwing in this segment. Steve's the first one that actually sponsored an actual segment on the show. So still just trying to get used to that. But since we're on topic, Mark, what are some of your favorite cigars that you would smoke overseas or enjoyed when people would send them over?
We usually we'd always pick up some Cubans on the way in going through Jordan. And at the airport there, you'd pick up a box of Cubans, take them on in, probably pick up 2 or 3 because you're going to take one for your buddies because they're out of cigars. And they make great getting to know your friends kind of things. You blue and really it's Blue Label Scotch. I'll leave out the other part of it and cigars that really kind of endear our friends that are our Arab friends over there. I don't mean to interrupt. There's a lot of companies or organizations that send our men and women overseas in combat zones care packages, being it cigars, magazines, toiletries, whatever. What are men and women fighting overseas? What do they need the most, and what do they want the most?
Wow.
For myself, I think the thing that made it bearable, because I worked overseas for 7 years out of 9. I was gone overseas from 2003 to 2012. Really the best thing I could have is a good internet signal. And food. And I will say, working with the agency, we always had a good chow. We usually had our own chef that we would find a local or something like that to be our cook. And it's a little bit different for me. But I think it's just the boys and girls out there, what they're wanting is they're just wanting that contact, knowing that they're appreciated for what they're doing, whether it's cigars, whether it's any type of swag, any type of care gifts. Those foods that you can't get over there, anything like that. They love that. And really from 2003 to 2012, the battle space for our veterans or for our active duty who were over there changed a lot. Some of those bases got over that 10-year, 15-year period, 10-year period, 12-year, 15-year period really grew. There was a Burger King on a couple of the Air Force bases. Now the base we had a great gym. I'll tell you that. We had built a gym that was probably 7,000 square feet and had upwards of 50,000 pounds of weights in it. of free weights.
Wow.
You know, if you weren't out at night or out training, then your day, I mean, you couldn't sit in your pod that much. You had to get behind some weight and start pushing that. Stay in shape because, you know, no matter what, if you're going outside the wire or not, you're still in a war zone.
Yeah.
Well, you told me that you also. Oh, sorry.
I would say my son served for a year in Qatar, and it was boring. It was a lot of time in the gym, you know, when there was nothing else to do.
Mark got really, really good at video games as well. He told us because it was work out, play video games, or read a book. You said, right?
Yeah. Call of Duty. You know, we can't even we're over there doing what we do, and then we can't even get away from it. So we play Call of Duty.
Now, how real is Call of Duty? No, I'm just totally.
Yeah. I thought you were about to go there. I'm like, what? Yeah.
There's something that most people don't know. You know, there is a Call of Duty that has, and I'm not sure which one it is, that has 13 hours, the Battle of Benghazi in it.
Really?
And you can play my character, Max Martini, or Tonto's character, Tig's character. They're all on there, and you can pick them. Unfortunately, I don't get paid for that. The actors are the ones who got paid for that, not us.
Oh, you didn't get paid for that. Were you at least on the on set during filming of the movie?
Yeah, we were. One of us was on set. Not all of us at the same time. We kind of spread it out. Probably 40 out of the 70 days of shooting. And, you know, I got to give kudos to Michael Bay, to Paramount. You know, if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for Michael Bay putting in a good chunk of his own money to make this movie happen, it probably wouldn't have happened. And
really,
yeah.
I didn't hear that. Like, that's not told in the media that he actually kicked in his own money.
Yeah, he really, and he was great to work with. You know, we'd start shooting at like 3:00 in the afternoon because, you know, most everything throughout that battle started, you know, during the day, early evening, all the way through the next morning. So most of the shooting, we started at, like I said, 3:00 in the afternoon. We'd shoot till about 1:00 in the morning. Then we'd head back to the hotel, grab a bunch of booze, sit around, drink, talk about what we did, talk about what we're going to do tomorrow, plan for the next day, watch the sun come up, go catch a few hours of sleep, get back up around noon, get back, go to the gym, hit the pool, jump in it was filmed in Malta, so you always had to jump into the Mediterranean, do some swimming, get ready, and go back and hit the set again.
So you said there's one of you that were always on scene. Was that as technical advisors in case, you know, they had questions like, you know, like what would have been appropriate? What would you have done in this situation? Or
and you know, and also show them how we as an individual, even, you know, we all know how to manipulate weapons and do that, but not everybody has their, you know, their own little quirk to themselves. And it was really, and I tell you, it was one of the things that really impressed me with the actors is really how in depth they wanted to get to know who we were and make sure that they depicted us as just our character, not just the guy that's carrying a gun shooting people up. You know, and it went to everything from weapons handling to talking about our family. I mean, we shared pretty much everything with them, and they did a great job. I'll tell you, every one of them did a phenomenal job. Max killed it on freaking picking me, and, you know.
Yeah. He looks like you, too.
Yeah, he is my doppelganger. Our birthdays are like our birthdays are we're the same age, and we're, I think, less than a month apart in our birthdays.
Wow. Now were there any times that you had to stop like filming and be like, hey, that's not accurate?
There was a few things, you know, and most of that was covered, you know, and that's why we get together and talk throughout the night after we shot about what's going to happen the next day to get some of that stuff covered. Because, you know, you never on set, you never want to stop the process, because, you know, every time you're not filming, that's money being spent and nothing getting put on paper or put on film. So you always tried to get most of that stuff done ahead of time. And Michael was so great to work with. I mean, if there was an issue with the weapon or something, you know, hey, how would you handle this? Okay, this is what it is, just like it's bang, bang, bang. He'd be like, okay, that he'd look at the actor, he'd say, that's how you do it. Do it that way now.
and I'm sure there were certain times where you had to, you know, for the sake of movie making, they had to do something a little bit different just to catch it.
It was. I mean, it wasn't a documentary. You know, it was entertainment. I mean, but it had to tell the story. And the key that really made me happy with the whole thing is with the variations that happened, the little things that changed, it's kept to the purpose of the movie, the purpose of what really happened there. It kept true to, you know, though things changed for cinematography purposes, they kept to what really happened, or at least the spirit of everything.
You know, a lot of people don't realize, unless they've read the book or even the movie really doesn't touch on this but you guys never knew each other before Benghazi to the level that you do now. So yeah. Benghazi happened. You lost a couple men that are depicted in the movie, yep. And it spurred on friendships that will now last a lifetime.
It will, you know, and it's, I mean, when you go, you know, we don't always get along. I mean, we're like anybody. We're type A personalities. I mean, you know, we'll butt heads just like brothers and sisters do. But you know, the one thing is the difference is we went through something that's going to bind us together forever. Not whether we always get along, whether we don't get along, no matter what. You know, somebody, if they asked me, any one of those guys needed something, I'd be there whenever they needed it. And I know it's still that way with them and us. And it's just that, you know, it's what you have to do after that. I mean, Tig, I probably wouldn't be here if Tig hadn't come up on that rooftop as quick as he did, because he's the one who got a tourniquet on my arm that saved my life. He saved the State Department guy's life. If it wasn't for him, I mean, the other guys had our backs because when we were down there slaying people, you know, you got each other six. If you're not in the fight, you're covering a spot where the fight may generate. Even if you're not, you know, even if you're not pulling the trigger, you still got to be ready, because you never know which direction it's going to come and how it's going to change.
So as you're kind of going through this with guys that you've never met before, and all of a sudden now everything's in the thick of it, was there ever a doubt in your mind that, kind of to get back to Kevin's question a little earlier, that I don't know these guys, I don't know how they operate, I don't know their tells, their ticks, their nonverbal communications, or is that kind of trained in standard to everybody in the military?
You know, you learn to read people. I mean, in this type, when you're doing this for a living, you know, and like I said, I've been carrying a gun, protecting this country, serving this country for 39 years. You get to know each other. You get to know those tells. You get to know and read people, whether you know their specific ones or not. And it's just it's communication. Well, that's one of the big things. If you're not shooting, you're communicating, and you're letting each other know what's going on in your sector, what you're seeing, and so everybody's ready. And that's the key to it. I mean, you know, and it's leadership, and it's being dedicated to that professional warrior, being able to work with others like that. You know, I do a lot of speaking to large companies, Fortune 500 companies, and you know, the biggest difference, you know, they want to know about leadership, because the one thing that's not taught in college is leadership. They teach you how to manage people. They teach you how to manage a company, but they don't teach you how to lead. And that's one of the biggest failures probably in the college arena when you get into that business. Is the difference between leadership and management is leadership, you're there for the guys underneath you. Management is you're there for yourself, trying to get higher up on that food chain.
Is it tough to teach leadership to, you have a different view of leadership in your military background. When you go to speak at, let's say, a Microsoft event, and you're trying to teach these people how to be leaders, it's got to be a different kind of leader. It's just, just like you just point your finger and say, do what I fucking said. That's why, that's kind of, I don't know. Is it hard to teach leadership?
It's easy to teach because you just do what you did in the military. I mean, I just do what I've done my whole life. Now it's hard for them to sometimes accept it.
Okay.
Because, there's a saying, hard times create hard men.
Yeah.
Hard men create soft times. Soft times create soft men. And soft men create hard times. Unfortunately, this latest generation is a little bit soft. They've been coddled a little bit too much. They've been kept out of the rain, kept out of the cold. If you're in the Marine Corps, you're in the Navy SEAL, you're in any of the special ops communities, one of the first things you get to learn real quick is you start learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. I know our son Graham, he's 4 years into he's in the Army, Fort Bragg, attached to the 101st out there. So he was soft. Hopefully Graham's not waiting. He'll admit he was soft. He got very comfortable real quick to being uncomfortable all the time.
Yeah.
So, but it's made him into a young man that I've always been proud of him. But he's definitely a man. Like, he is a man now.
Well, and that's the thing is, it's what I call it man camp. And, man camp is going through hardships, because you don't learn nothing when you always win or when you get a trophy all the time. When you learn most of your greatest lessons in life is after you've gotten punched in the nose, kicked in the teeth, and knocked down. Your feet hurt, you're tired, you're freezing cold, or you're whatever it is. Those are when you learn your lessons in life that are going to stick with you and going to make you a better person. And unfortunately, our society has gotten to the point of where that's not the way it is. Going through school, I probably got into, even second, third, fourth grade, we were getting into fights on the schoolyard.
Yeah.
There wasn't no guns. There was no knives. After you got into a fight, usually you hugged it out. That was the punishment. Teachers would make you hug it out. But you learn to respect somebody else after you get punched in the nose once or twice by them. But we can't do that anymore. Everybody's going to run to a lawyer and sue. Oh, this guy hurt my feelings. You know what? Your feelings go in a freaking backpack.
That's it. And Mike Anthony, yes, Fort Bragg is the 82nd. I'm thinking of my guys out at Screaming Eagle Cigars, 101st out there in Clarksville.
Yeah.
Clarksville, Tennessee. Great lounge if anybody's out there. Screaming Eagle Cigars, home of the 101st. But yeah,
that's what I tell people is leave your feelings at home. You need to stand up, have some intestinal fortitude, and just push through, because no matter how bad it gets, what's the worst that could happen? In the military, they're not gonna let you die. At least not in training. They're gonna make you hard. They want to make you as hard as freaking woodpecker lips. Come on. Yeah. And the only way to do that is to suffer and go through a lot of pain.
That's it. It's men, boys nowadays that claim to be men. Like I said, I'm a mechanic by trade, and we work in a shop with men. I've been doing this 25 years, and just recently we had one of these soft kids. Just you say something to them, and then next thing you know, you got HR calling you. It's like, what? It's like, I have said way worse things than that in my career, and that's what this kid gets offended over. Now,
yeah.
Like I'm potentially going to get in trouble, so you bounce him to somewhere else, and it's just like, wow, it's like I am getting old. I never thought that generation would infiltrate my business, and it's just that's it, because we're men. sometimes get in these huge heated arguments at work. We're screaming at each other. And at the end of the day, you know, it's like, hey man, all right, we'll catch you tomorrow. All right, man, you have a good night. You know, and that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, somebody had said, you know, why don't you run for office? We need people like you. I'm like, you don't want people like me.
No.
You need people that are willing to say whatever, but you don't want them, because I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to tell you if it's right or wrong, in my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't agree with me. And you can call me whatever name you want, because I've probably been called it already by my drill instructor, by my father, by my uncles, by my grandfather. I mean, there was my uncle went through Marine Corps boot camp in 1958.
Oh God.
He told me what it was going to be like. This is
you
what
up
you need to
then.
expect. I got to boot camp and I'm like, wait a minute, I've been here 10 minutes and they ain't kicked my ass yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some stories that one of my close friends who was he was working in the captain's quarters. I forgot what they're called during Vietnam, and he would sometimes have to go out and help pick up bodies and pick up soldiers and bring them back. And he said during boot camp, somebody was caught smoking cigarettes, and the drill instructor made him eat as many cigarettes as he possibly could eat. And then he threw up everywhere, and he still was made to run the 5 miles and everything else. You don't do that. He also has told me stories about how the drill instructor would square up with you, like a 60-year-old drill instructor, and be like, you tough guy, come on, I'm 60, let's go. And it was always a bad news for the guy, obviously not the drill instructor, but the other guy would always end up going to the infirmary for something after that. Why do you think that changed? And do we want that change?
When, you know, no, we don't. I mean, but it happens in every society, and it goes back to soft men make hard times make hard men. Hard men make soft times, and soft times go back to making hard men. Or I mean, soft times make soft men. We have gone through that phase of where we had hard times. I mean, and that started, you know, World War II, Vietnam. I mean, you had to fight, and you know, it was not a being coddled, walked along, bottle in your mouth kind of life. I mean, you know, your mother kicked you off the tent as soon as you could because there's another kid coming. Whatever it is, you got to get out there and work. I mean, you know, and I had a great life, but I mean, grew up on a farm and ranch. I mean, all of my family lived within 20 miles of each other. You couldn't get away with nothing. And my dad, never once, if I got in trouble at school, did he say, man, I'll bet that teacher's wrong.
Yeah.
If I got in trouble at school, it was my fault no matter what. Because whatever it was, I was not supposed to do it. I wasn't supposed to act that way. I mean, and that's what it was. And if he heard about it, I'd get in trouble at school. They still had paddles hanging on the side of the chalkboard, you know? They actually still had chalkboards that had chalk that you wrote on it.
Yeah, my dad was the same way. Still, you know, they would go down to the football coach would give the paddlings, you know, and same thing. He said, you know, if he got in trouble, it was his fault. You know, there never was a time. Not now. These days, it's, you know, kid gets in trouble. Why? What did the teacher do wrong? You know, and that's just the way it is. And it's not. And it's not teaching these kids anything. They don't know how to rely on themselves. They don't know what they don't know how they don't know what their bodies, their minds, are capable of. You know, as you know, I'm 45 years old. I know what my breaking point is. I have pushed my body to the point of collapse, to where I know exactly what that break, and I'll even try to extend that, being at long work hours, double jobs, whatever it is. Kids, they don't know what that is nowadays. They don't know what their breaking point is.
No. And, you saw that I coached when I was home on breaks between contracting. My oldest daughter, she's 26 now, but I'd coach her soccer team if it was during the summer, and I think that's when I first started noticing it is, they were like, you would be like, okay, hey, our team won. And they're like, no, we don't keep score. I'm like, we don't keep score? No, you don't keep score. I guarantee you the kids are keeping score because they would come up afterwards. Man, we won. We got more than they did. They're keeping score, but we've taught them not to. And everybody started getting a trophy. So, we got to be everybody's equal. Well, we're not equal. I mean, I can't run as fast as my friends. I'm not this good. I'm not that. I mean, I can't do a lot of what other people can do and vice versa, and what we've done is we've just bastardized this life that we're teaching our kids. And if we don't just stand up and take it back, I mean, I sit there and wonder who's going to fight to defend this country in the future.
I wonder that as well, because I hear the stories from my son that it's in the Army, and some of them they're not good stories. It's like you just wonder, is it all going to be video games? Are we not going to have infantry anymore? Is that what their plan is? It's all going to be fought computer versus computer, drone versus drone, cyborg versus cyborg, whatever it's going to be.
And who knows? I mean, it's kind of scary. I mean, I go back and I looked at the you look at the movie Terminator, you look at the iRobot with
Will Smith,
and when computers start to think for themselves, something's going to go wrong.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Here's the problem is between a computer and a person is the person has a soul and they know what moral values are, and a computer has zero of that. And we want to sit there and listen to and develop this to that point of where the computers are going to run everything, and I mean, we've got, and getting back, kind of going back to Benghazi. I mean, what part of the problem was why we couldn't get help there, in my opinion, was because you had people in Washington watching what was going on a drone footage, trying to make a decision on what to do without listening to the people on the ground.
Yep.
We got people who are so egotistical and self-centered and thinking that they're smarter than everybody else, working inside the beltway, that's all they want and they're going to control it. Well, you know what? You can't, because there has never been a time when you can take ground without men on the ground, men and women on the ground. You can have air superiority. You can control all of that. But if you ain't controlling the ground, you ain't going to freaking win.
That's it. It's men and women sitting in a air-conditioned room, drinking their lattes, and saying, why aren't you doing this, when they don't know that you're wearing 150 pounds of gear. It's 125 degrees outside. You've been up for 2 days, and you should do this. It's like that. That's the people I want to take my advice from. What do you believe, out of all your stories, all your travels, what's the biggest misconception that you've heard about the events that took place in Benghazi?
The biggest misconception, you say it the nice way, the biggest lie that was perpetrated on us. I didn't want to say that. So
well,
yes,
it was
thank
over
you.
a video. Remember, it started over a video.
Yeah.
Well, one, it was started over a video, and two is that we had no aircraft or people that could get there in time. And here's the thing: is I asked them. This is the question I asked them. So, how did you know it was? When did you know it was going to end? Who knew it was going to only be 13 hours?
Yeah.
And even if it was only 13 hours, I got there when I left Dulles Airport in DC. I flew to Benghazi. It took me less than 13 hours to get there. So, and that was on a civilian aircraft. So you can't tell me that. And with everything that we have going on in the Middle East and in the Mediterranean and in all of that, the Red Sea, and that we couldn't get somebody there. What's bad is that the people in this country have become so dependent on the news and what they say or what the politicians are saying, and whoever says it the mostest, the oftenest, that's who they believe. Instead of sitting back and thinking, wait a minute, we've got, even if we couldn't have had any U.S. troops, Italy was right. I mean, Italy was about 110 miles from Benghazi. A plane going Mach 1, going 800 miles an hour. How long does it take to get there? Not long.
I was going to just say, like I said, I don't believe in 2023, or even 10 years ago, there isn't a place on this planet we can't get a plane in 2 hours, 3 hours, if not sooner than that. Anywhere on this planet at any given time.
Oh yeah, especially with our air carriers. I mean, everything's just right there. So
that's why we have so many pre-deployed freaking. I mean, you've got bases in Germany and Bosnia. You've got Qatar. You've got freaking the UAE. I mean, we've got all these partnerships with all these countries. There's a reason we have that, so we can be able to strike anywhere, any place, anytime. Period. And I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the American people have their head in the sand, and it ain't their fault. It ain't all their fault, because you know what? We've made them become both parents have to work just to keep their head afloat. And some of them, both family members or both parents are working, and they still can't keep afloat because, you know what? We've gotten in this idea. I got to have the next new car. I got to have the next new iPhone. I mean, we're on iPhone 15 or something like that now.
Yeah. I have the S22 5G. This thing was $1,300 for this phone. It's insane. But we all have to have these. Always have to have these things.
Now, Mark, I'm curious about this. So when a soldier is like an active soldier, not shadow warrior, not contracted soldier, but active soldier gets court-martialed for not listening. I know you guys kind of did a lot of what you thought was best in Benghazi, and some instances you were told to not do certain things that you did or not go here, but you guys were like, fuck it, it needs to be done. We need to get people out. So when that happens, when a shadow warrior defies that for obviously a good reason, military would court-martial or go right to being in trouble. What is that? How does that work as a contractor? Because you're not beholden to the government.
No, you're not really. I mean, what they do is they pull your clearance so you can't work anymore and make you go home and figure something else out. And that's kind of how it works. I mean, and, lucky for us, the publicity of this thing blew up, and, it gave us that platform to voice what happened. And, and I never really wanted to tell the story. But, I'm injured. I was in the hospital for 6 to 8 weeks. I had a year and a half of rehabilitation. And in doing that, I struggled because what I was making, I wasn't making anymore. Because as a contractor, military guy gets injured, he goes convalescent leave, he gets paid.
Yeah.
I didn't get paid. I ended up having to file a workman's comp claim. Got paid through workman's comp, which anybody who's ever gotten injured on the job and has dealt with that, I mean, those doctors are so good, right?
Yeah. They send you your $300 a week check, and they're like, "Hey, hope you're doing good."
Yeah. Now, and that kind of circles back to Shadow Warriors. Is after going through all that, we almost lost our home for Christmas that year of 2012. We didn't have enough money after paying rent and paying the electric and gas bills to give our kids Christmas presents. Luckily, a bunch of people from the agency, the people that work on the ground, took up a collection and helped us out. And we didn't want anybody else to have to go through that. So we started Shadow Warriors Project. We're there to help the private security contractor and their families when they get killed or injured overseas. And that was our initial founding documents. But, what we found is, as the war kind of started slowing down, there's less contractors. I had gotten me a service dog given to me by another nonprofit. So I wanted to kind of pay it forward and help out other combat vets and give them a service dog. So we started a canine program where we were given 3 to 5 service dogs a year, and I really enjoyed doing that. But part of the problem there comes, I could only help 3 to 5 people.
Yeah.
So I was looking at ways to do something different. So we started a canine therapy program. I grew up farming and ranching. I had horses, I had dogs. I know the therapeutic value of all those animals, and I've seen and heard about a lot of these equine therapy programs for PTSD and TBI. So I wanted to kind of do the same thing because I know what my service dog did for me and also what Christ did for me. So, because we are faith-based, I'm not the turn the other cheek kind of faith-based. I'm like, because I don't believe Christ was, I really don't believe Christ was a pacifist. I think Christ was tough as nails. Anybody that could carry his own damn cross up a hill that they're going to stake him to, and he did it for my soul. That dude's freaking hardcore in my book. So I wanted to pass that on, and so we bring in we bring in anywhere from 5 to 15 combat vets at a time. We'll pair them up with a dog. We'll introduce them to Christ. I use the dogs to talk about it because, the difference, and anybody who's owned a dog can relate to this, and if you've been around them, you can as well, is we live in the physical and see in the spiritual. Dogs live in the physical. We live in the physical as humans and see in the physical. Dogs live in the physical but see in the spiritual. And what I mean by that is there is good, and if there's good, there's got to be the contrast to that, and there's evil. We know that. Scripture tells us about it. But dogs, anybody who's had a dog is at some time in their life, that dog's alerted on somebody or something that is different, that is down the hall, outside, when the dog can't see, the dog's growling, barking, or it's looking at somebody, and there's something wrong with that guy. And they detect that evil. They see those evil spirits that are among us. And anybody who doesn't believe that there's evil spirits has never been around true evil. Like I said, part of my job when I was working at the sheriff's department is I hunted predators that hurt kids. And that's evil. And I've seen too much of it. But the dogs, they can see it. And that's how I bring up, Christ and our faith and our trust in the spiritual. Because, and it's one of those things, there's no such thing as darkness. Darkness is just the absence of light. Just like evil, it's the absence of good. If we allow good to fall away, then evil's going to, that place is going to get filled. And then we also use the dogs to teach guys how to manage their anxiety. And we do that a lot like we train our dogs as well as we were trained in boot camp is, stress. If you're going through stress, because obedience to commands is stressful. And the easiest way to get somebody to be obedient is put them in stress. We do that with the dogs. I'll put them in stress to get another action out of them and then praise that action. And in doing that, we put the handlers and the dogs together, and those dogs make a difference in their life, teach them how to manage those anxieties. Like for myself, I would never, I don't regret anything I've ever been through, because everything I've been through has made me who I am and put me in a position where I can help others. Mm-hmm. And that's really an honor for me to be able to do that. And I got to give the glory to the Lord for doing that, because I should have died that night 3 times. anybody who's in the military out there knows the kill radius of an 81 millimeter mortar, and it's not less than 15 feet. I had 3 of them blow up 15 feet from me. They went to blast through me and killed Ty on the other side of me. Wow. The other one, the second one that hit on the rooftop killed Glenn. I took shrapnel from all 3 of them, and
it's still in you.
Yeah, I still have. Last count, I think it was about 17, 18 pieces of shrapnel in me somewhere.
So when you, really quick, I have 2 questions. Is when you go through an airport, do you have to tell them? Because does it go off? Do they see that in your body?
No, that's the scary part.
Oh, geez.
I've got a titanium rod from my wrist or from my hand all the way up to my elbow holding that bone together. And that doesn't set it off either.
So I wanted you to because I wanted you to talk about the story that you had shared with us about when you had your dog and somebody walked through the back of the room. Your dog never picked. I'll let you tell it.
Yeah, I was actually speaking at a SWAT conference, and probably 200-300 SWAT officers. Roan is my dog's name. I named her after Tyrone Woods, who got killed next to me. He was our team lead. She sits up on stage with me. She's my service dog. She's also trained. Well, she's not really trained for it, but all dogs know how to bite. All dogs alert on things. All dogs know evil as well as good. And she's laying up on the floor, and she's a Belgian Malinois. She's got her ears back. Her eyes are closed. And one of the guys in the front row said, "Hey, why do you got that dog?" I'm like, "Oh, she's my service dog, but, she also kind of watches my 6 for me. She lets me know when there's malcontents in the area." And I couldn't have planned it any better. Not 2 to 3 minutes later, a guy walks along the back of the wall at the back end of the room, and Roan's one ear pops up and just follows him the whole way. And she's got this low, subtle growl going on. And when he walked out of the room, ear comes down, the growl quit. And 5-10 minutes later, another guy walked in. Ear comes up, does the same thing. She doesn't growl. She follows him until he went and sat down. The guys asked me afterwards, "Hey, why did she growl at that first guy and not the second?" I'm like, my guess is I trust my dog is that he's got some problems going on. He's probably not in a good spot. And whether it's a demon, whether it's just some evil that he's attached to him, she can detect that. And that's what she can detect. That's why they can do what they do for us in combat as canines for military and law enforcement. I mean, they're phenomenal animals.
Now they are. I've got a couple of pit bulls at home. They're the sweetest, kindest, most gentlest dogs you'll ever meet. But I always tell people that they meet the wrong person. They both have that ability. And I go, the wrong person comes near us, comes near the family, they become the pit bull that you read about in the papers, without a doubt. And there have been several times, just like I said, in an empty room, you talk about feeling evil spirits, whatever, just they perk up, they growl. There's something there in the corner, and it's just like, what do you see? What are you seeing, Stella? And
what sense of exorcism do you see? In the
corner? But they're making sure that and then she goes from room to room, checking on everybody, just making sure nothing's going bad. It's in service dogs. I've got friends with service dogs. We support the here in Florida. I forget the Southwest Guide Dogs. Provide a great organization. I got hooked up with them through JC Newman. It was heartbreaking last year. My puppy Daphne, I watched her from a puppy all the way through training, and then she got an illness, and she wasn't able to complete her It broke my heart. I mean, I got that letter in the mail and just sobbing. I felt bad for her. I felt bad for the vet. He eventually did get another dog, but it's these dogs mean the most. When you see a service member with their canine, and then if you've ever known one before a canine and after, two different people, completely different individuals.
Oh yeah. So Kevin, something that I found shocking when Mark, me, Tony, and Chad went out to dinner. Kevin, if you are a contracted warrior, do you think, just yes or no, that your workman's comp would cover you the entire trip? Meaning, even though you're over there, you might be off duty, but you're always working. Would you think that workman's comp would cover you?
Yeah, you would think that. That's what workman's comp's for.
No. That was the biggest shocking. The second you're off the clock, even though you're still in a war zone, Mark, I'll let you explain because.
So we had a guy. His name's Willie. He's out of Atlanta. He was working as a private military contractor for State Department. He got injured when he was doing physical training to stay in shape for his job. Ended up was swimming in the ocean and got a wave picked him up, slammed him into the seafloor, broke his neck at the C4, C5. So he's paralyzed from the neck down. He drowns. Just happens to be that there's an IDF soldier, retired IDF soldier, hadn't been on that beach in 8 years. He was the only guy on that beach. I got to tell the whole story because that guy and Willie are still friends to this day. And that guy says, I don't even know why I went to the beach that day. I just felt the need to be there. And he went there and he saw what happened. And he swam out, saved Willie's life, resuscitated him. They flew him home. He got sent to one of the premier spinal centers in the country, which is in Atlanta. And about halfway through, I can't remember exactly how long into his treatment, he gets a letter from the insurance company saying, I'm sorry, but we can't cover you. You weren't working at the time of your injuries. Well, he did, like most of us as contractors or military, called his wife. She picked him up, checked himself out, and went home. Well, probably a few months later, long story short, his wife ended up divorcing him. She didn't sign on to take care of a quadriplegic. Whole nother end of the story goes down that road, but you can imagine where this guy was at. And I didn't know him at the time. We hadn't got involved with him at this point, just because it's hard to pass on information and get it around the community to let people know who's doing what and who got injured. But I got a call one night and said, hey, this guy, he's been struggling really bad. Can you help him out? So I got on the phone that night, called him up, said, hey, Willie, I know you don't know me. Probably have not even heard about me, but I got an organization and we're going to help you out. Give me 2 days. That's all I ask. Give me 2 days and I will get you back to where you need to be. And I luckily, through all of my illustrious fame or whatever you want to call it, I got to meet a lot of great people. And one of them was Charlie Daniels. And that guy is one of the greatest men that I've ever known. I miss that guy every day, but I knew that he had worked with, because him and his manager, guy by the name of David Corlew, another great friend of mine, had started a nonprofit called the Journey Home Project. And they had partnered with the Shepherd Center, which is the premier spinal center in Atlanta that Willie had been at. I called him up. I'm like, hey, this is what I got. I got a guy. This is what's going on. I know the Shepherd Center there. You've got connections to him. Can you help me out? He got on the phone and called the owners of the Shepherd Center. They called me, said, have him call this number. We got a hold of Willie. Me and Willie called that number. We got him back in. And today, defiant of all Willie's issues, the man can walk with a severed spine, with a spinal injury at the C4, C5. Tell me the Lord ain't it working that young man.
Wow.
But tell them what he said to you because he was on the verge of doing something very, very harmful to himself that you didn't even know until later on.
No, and
this gives me chills. This gives me
chills. We got involved with him. It was a year or two afterwards. We were doing a fundraiser for the Journey Home Project to help them raise money, and it was in Atlanta. And Willie was I planned on Willie coming out and meeting Charlie and everybody at the Shepherd Center who had helped him out, and the owners and all of that. And I had set up to have a car pick up Willie. He was going to get out there, and I tried calling him when I was there, and he wouldn't answer his phone. And I finally, he texts me and he says, "Hey, everything's good." And I call him. I'm like, "Hey, everything okay? What happened?" He said, "Well, I was at the hospital." I'm like, "Okay, what happened?" He says, "Oh, I fell and broke my arm." I'm like, "Okay, don't worry about it. Go ahead. You don't need to come on out. I mean, you got a broken arm. Take care of yourself." He says, "Oh, no, it's all right. I'm already on my way." He comes out and we walk him in the door of this guy's house who was hosting the event. And Willie walks in, broken arm, freaking paralyzed from the neck down, tough as nails. He ends up telling his story. And for me, this is probably the hardest part because this is what means so much to me. And it's, again, why the Lord is who's put me here and given me this opportunity to make a difference in others' lives. But Willie said the night that I called him was the night he was going to kill himself. He'd had it planned out, had it everything, he was done. And for whatever reason, the Lord brought people together to make sure that I was able to call him on that night and make a difference in his life. And Willie now is he is a beacon on the top of the hill for a lot of people. He takes care of himself. He's raised his kids. They're off to college now, and he's just kicking it, doing well in life. He's got his own business. He does a lot of the multi-level marketing stuff, talking to people, encouraging people to be positive. And if you can't freaking convince somebody to be positive after listening to someone like him and seeing what he's went through, there's something wrong with your soul.
Well, no, I agree. No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I was just curious. So I totally agree. And since you kind of brought up a little bit of war to home and a little transition, I'm curious. A lot of people want to know the reality of what transitioning is. So can you kind of just walk through your own personal transitioning challenges from military to security and then back to civilian? What were some of the hardest changes? What were some of the most difficult, and what was easier than you expected?
And I didn't have, at least from my standpoint, and this is why when I hear something from a vet like what I'm going to say, I always tell them, "Hey, can I talk to your wife or your best friends?" Because they're going to tell you the truth on what they see. Because us as veterans, we don't see our struggles. We don't see those things that we go through the struggles. But when I got out of the military, the thing that probably helped me was I got out of the military February of 96, I think is what it was. My dad met me in Atlanta. I was coming from the East Coast, drove all the way across with my U-Haul truck, my family, straight on through. We drove 2 days straight because I had to start the police academy here in Colorado. So I didn't really have no transition time. I went straight from having a mission to having a mission. And that mission was to get through, which really wasn't a mission. After going through Marine Corps boot camp, the only thing that was probably difficult was memorization of stuff that I thought was silly. But going straight into law enforcement and going right back out and continuing. I think that's the thing that's always helped me is I continue to get involved in things that are bigger than me, helping other people. It's that sense of service. And, when I got out of law enforcement, I went into, into bounty hunting, still working in the community and straight into contracting. When I got out of after getting injured, life, the Lord gave me the inspiration to have shadow warriors and just continue being a voice and being a servant to our veterans, as well as, and the thing Shadow Warriors is doing now is going to open up our ranks to law enforcement as well, because, a lot of people cops get a bad rap a lot. And, when somebody calls 911 and asks for law enforcement to show up, they're never happy when they get there because somebody's going to jail. There's a bad reason why somebody's there, and it doesn't end well. You call a firefighter, he comes out, saves people, gets the cat out of the tree, and puts the fire out. Cops, that ain't what they do. They come in and they put people in handcuffs, de-escalate situations, and put them in county lockup for a while. And that's where they see things on a daily basis that most people in society could never deal with. And so we want to make sure we're helping them too with our program and our canine therapy program, bringing them in. And, and that's our biggest goal right now is we don't have a facility here in Colorado to bring the guys and gals in to do the training and do the canine therapy course. And that's really our biggest goal right now is doing a large raise to buy about 35 acres, put a barn on it so we can bring guys in, gals in, where we can commune with the Lord, with the dogs, and with each other, and help each other become better than what we should be.
Absolutely.
You talked about helping other people. I want to say we all, I take it for granted. I got a lot of friends in the military, I know a lot of them go through, really hard times, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I have a hard time connecting because I don't know what they went through. I can't, they can't tell me I'm having a hard time because this is what I've seen and done. I can't connect with that. I don't know what it's like being, overseas, being shot at, being just in 125-degree weather with 150 pounds of gear on for hours and hours on end. What would you tell people that said, I want to help? I have a friend that's going through hard times. I don't know how to help him. Is it just contributing monetarily to an organization that can help them? Or what can I reach out to my friend and say and do to help them? I don't know what to do at times.
One is when he sits there and gives you that line of shit that I hear all the time is, man, no one understands me. Well, of course they don't. They're not.
Oh, Mark.
Oh, hold on, Mark.
We got two of us back.
All right.
There we go. What were you saying, Mark?
Yep, I'm here.
What were you saying?
All right, you're talking about that, and they give you that line of shit.
Kevin's still off, just so you know. But it's of course no one's going to understand what you went through. I've got a buddy. He's in North Carolina, young Marine. He got blown up, freaking burned 2/3 of his body. We call him Nubs because he doesn't have any fingers anymore. And how can I understand what that is?
Oh, Mark, I think your internet's losing. You're frozen. Hopefully we don't lose Mark here. Well, as Mark makes his way back, everyone, what you're hearing is really a guy with just a huge heart that has gone through so much shit, whether it be government put through, contractor, and this is why we need people like, and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, this is why we need people like Mark, because Mark cuts through that shit, and he cuts through down to the base of the line. So if anybody is watching and feels that they would like to donate, please, they're trying to get a dog training center. And I don't even know what the expense of that costs. We all have seen Kevin's videos about his lounge. Could you imagine what the expense of a training ground would be? And so if you have 5, 10 or whatever your heart feels like, please jump over to Shadow Warriors Project and donate what you can. They really are doing work that a lot of people get forgotten about because they're Shadow Warriors. A lot of people don't understand that the only reason why the military death numbers are so low in Iraq, Afghanistan, what was in Benghazi, is because the contractors are not counted in those. We lost a lot of contractors, and these guys are not taken care of the way that they probably should be. But what's your thoughts on contractors, Kevin?
They're, I don't ever want to use that word necessary evil. That's not that plays to a bad connotation, but they're necessary. We need guys. When you're in the military, from what I've seen, there are rules of engagement, there are chains of command, and there are things that happen in life that you have to throw out the rules of engagement sometimes in life. So we need contractors that can make that judgment call, to where hey, this needs to be done and let's get it done. Sometimes the military, like I said, talking with my son, anytime anything wants to get done, it's all the way up a chain of command,
So Mark,
yeah,
put your LEO hat on for a minute here. But with all that's going on, I want to get into a little bit of current events, because you've been on the military front. You've gone against great evil. You fought it. You've taken it out. And on the law enforcement front, you were a chief. You've were in law enforcement for many years for a town. I'm sure you've dealt with gun issues and everything up the chain on that. How has your experiences, both as a contractor and as a vet, influenced your views on guns and the Second Amendment? And before you answer, I want to tell you, you're in great company. I'm a firm believer that there should be a fire sale every month, and if you can tow it, drive it, or fly it home, you should be able to own it. And Kevin is also a competition shooter.
And thankfully I live in the great state of Florida. We just passed a great law that you no longer need a license to carry concealed. We love our guns in Florida.
So give everybody your opinion as an officer, chief, and a veteran around Second Amendment.
Well, like I said earlier, I've spent 39 years carrying a gun. Is that right? 39? Yeah, 39 years. Guess that tells you how old I am. But
I turned 38 tomorrow.
Right. I started carrying a gun to protect this country at 18 years old, and I still do it today. And when you get to the Second Amendment, it's pretty simple. It says everything you should know shall not be infringed. And out here in the West, I can walk through town. I can go put a gun on my hip. And as long as it's not concealed, I can carry that anywhere except into a school or into a courthouse, those kind of things.
Oh, you have open carry in Colorado?
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere but Denver County.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so we have open carry. So, but then they want you to freaking get a license to carry concealed. And it's like, okay, talk about idiocy. I mean, and we're fighting hard here in Colorado. And anybody out there that's listening from Colorado, next Wednesday, I think it's at 11:30, the committee that's looking for it's overseeing the assault weapons ban in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to be voting. So check it out. You can go to my social media. Just look up Mark Oz Geist. You can sign up to testify. We've got a lot of people there, and we're going to try to make a difference and hold their feet to the fire, because really it comes down to this. The moment we make a law that makes an honest person a criminal, I don't care if it's with guns, with anything, that's when this country, has gone completely upside down. When we are willing to make a law that's going to make a law-abiding citizen a criminal, when we're not even dealing with the criminals right now. I mean, we're condoning child exploitation. When we allow kids into environments that they should never be allowed into, seeing things and being forced upon things or exposed to things they should never. I mean, the Bible tells you the children are our soul. If you do not take care of the children, you might as well, you have a great, what is it? You might as well tie a millstone around your neck, because that's where you're going to go. And we, I am all about safety, but the gun is not what kills. The gun, I've had a gun sit on my shelf every day, and it has yet to freaking shoot anybody. I've cussed at it, yelled at it, called it rotten names, and it just lays there. Doesn't get up and do nothing. It is the person behind it. And it's that thing that we fail to address in society, is the mental illness, the mental health issues that are out there. Colorado's a great example. We pretty much cut out our freaking mental health we do not allow basically people to be put into an insane asylum. It's just non-existent. If as a cop, I pick somebody up because I believe they're a mental health issue, they're either a danger to themselves or a danger to others, the best I can do is put them into an observation at a hospital, at a in their psych ward for 72 hours. And if the person says, I don't want to hurt myself anymore, they let them out. Okay. We are not doing anything to teach our kids intestinal fortitude, how to overcome adversity. People get their feelings hurt because I disagree with them, because you say a bad name or it is just astronomical why we are where we're at right now. And that, I think, is the biggest issue. If the left and right would quit fighting over the gun issue and take all that money that we're wasting on trying to take away our God-given Second Amendment right and put it towards true research and unpoliticized scientific research to help and make the issue different by the mental health, by the homelessness, by the crime, we could really do a whole lot with this country, with this state. And that's where it's at. But that thing there, what it does is that it makes people work together. That makes the left and the right of the people work together. The politicians in Washington, D.C. or in freaking Denver, Colorado, or in freaking whatever state your capital is, what they want to do is they want to keep us separated. They want us to be fearful of each other or hate each other. And as long as we're fearful of each other or we hate each other, then that means we can get you to vote the way we want, which means I want you to vote for me. I want to be the guy sitting in the seat so I can go to Congress with a net worth of $150,000 and 5 years later come back with a net worth of $10 million. How does that work?
Exactly. And it's the media. It's platforms like YouTube. God forbid that you show a video on gun safety and you firing a video, and I can't tell you how many friends of mine got videos taken down, flagged. That's you can't show that. It's shooting a gun. It's bad. It's the that mall. I know recently we had a mall shooting, but it was that mall shooting 2 years ago where the guy from 40 yards with a handgun took out the guy like 8 shots, like center mass. That guy saved how dozens and dozens of lives. He got his little 30 seconds on the TV, and that was it.
And the shooter gets everything.
The shooter gets everything, and it's the media. We got to do something. The media has to start promoting the good stories as well. I believe it. The only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, the NRA drill.
I don't call them media. I call them entertainment business.
Yeah.
And I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. They pick and choose which one to be on, and it's all about entertainment because half the time the freaking host doesn't ever let the person talk and say anything anyways. Ask them a question and then answers it for them.
Okay, you've got to tell them the Fox News story if you're open to it. Please. That was I was rolling on that one.
I'm wondering if I've ever told this story where it's been recorded. Yeah, maybe we ought to go to something else.
All right. Well,
fair enough.
We'll save that one for in person. I'll share it with you.
We'll save that one for the meet and greet when we all get together.
Absolutely.
So I've got a question for. Like I've said before, I've got friends that are in the military, and they've told me that in order to fight these evil people, fight these monsters, you have to a certain point become that monster yourself, and once you cross, they always say they never elaborate. Once you cross that line, there's no coming back. That monster is now with you for the rest of your life. How do you quell that monster? I don't want to say there's a monster inside of you, but is it hard on a daily basis? Does that guy, when you see evil in this world, when you see, you talked about kids, people, and that's hard. Is it hard keeping that monster quelled sometimes?
It's I'm looking up something I want to read to you. I'm not the author of this. I wish I was, but it's this is kind of how it goes. It was an unknown person that wrote this, but it's those who fight monsters inevitably change because of all they see and do. They lose their innocence and a piece of their humanity with it. If you want to survive, they begin to adopt some of the same characteristics as the monsters they fight, because that's necessary to become capable of rage and extreme violence. There are fundamental differences, however. Those that fight monsters keep those monster tendencies locked away in a cage deep inside. That monster is only allowed out to protect others, to accomplish the mission, to get the job done, not for the perverse pleasure that the monsters feel when they harm others. In fact, those monster tendencies do cause damage. They cause guilt, isolation, depression, PTSD. For there is a cost for visiting violence upon others when you are not a monster. Those who do so know one thing, though. The cost inflicted upon society as a whole is far greater without those who fight monsters. That is why they are willing to make that horrible sacrifice so others may live peaceably. But before you judge one of us, remember this. We witness things that humans aren't meant to see, and we see them repeatedly. We perform the duties that most feel are beneath them. We solve problems, often by visiting violence upon others. We run towards things that most run away from. We go out to fight what most fear, and we stand between them and the monsters that want to destroy them. Most want to pretend that they don't exist, but we know better. We do things that the vast majority are too soft, too weak, or too cowardly to do. And their life is more peaceable because of us.
Wow.
There are politicians in this country that holds that there is nothing worth fighting for. This submission is the popular mantra. Warriors are decreed, denigrated, and cast as morally inferior. We know how childish and how asinine and how cowardly this mindset is. We know this, that there are things worth fighting and dying for. We know that not every problem can be solved through rational discourse, that some problems can only be solved through the application of force and violence. And while we do prefer the former, we are perfectly capable of the latter. We believe that fighting what others fear is honorable, noble, and just, and are willing to pay the price for that deeply held belief. Why? For us, it isn't a choice. It is what we are. We are simply built that way.
Wow. Who
Wow.
wrote that? That gave me chills.
Yeah. And there was the one line that, you
Wow.
know, for the, you know, it's people don't believe, you know, even with all the news that, you know, it's a 24-hour entertainment cycle that we'll use your word. They still believe there's not evil in the world. There are still people that don't believe there's not evil in the world. And we see it every day.
You know, and I think is because I remember when I was a deputy up in Teller County, which is just west. It's on the other side of Pikes Peak from Colorado Springs. And the banker, the president of one of the banks up there. I actually grew up with his son because they lived in the town where I grew up before they moved. And we were talking, and he asked me, he said, you know, do you really think there's that much crime up here? He says, I don't see it. You know, it's a beautiful, beautiful town. It's a beautiful county. You know, it's up at around 9,000 feet. I mean, you know, it's just idyllic up here. And I'm like, that's the problem. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you got your blinders on. You don't want to see it because you moved up here because this is your idea of paradise.
Yeah.
And the problem is if you actually take an active look around you or get involved in what's going on in your community that's negative, then you're going to notice that your idea of paradise is just not paradise. And I don't think people can comprehend that because they've never lived in anything but paradise or their idea of paradise. So they don't want to have to see it. They don't want to have to, you know, they want to isolate it in the downtown area or, you know, the river walk or down along the river where the homeless are putting up tents or, you know, in California along freaking certain stretches of the beach, because where the actors are, where the money people are, all that, they don't see that. They don't live that. Their world is different. And they don't want to see it because then their idea of paradise is diminished and they have to pay attention. Wait a minute. I'm sitting here doing this and I ain't doing a damn thing to make it any better. Mm-hmm. You know, I think my computer might be dying on me here pretty soon. So I want to, we may have to cut it off before it just dies on us. But if we ain't getting up in the morning and trying to make a difference in somebody else's life, then you need to reevaluate your priorities in life. It ain't all about us. It ain't all about me. It ain't all about you. It's about those that we can help, that we can make a difference. And imagine what this country could be like if we get back to that. Everybody in this country, you know, I disagree with people, but somebody asked me when we were, you know, hey, do you hate the people that were trying to kill you? And I'm like, why is that? And I'm like, they were trying to kill you. And I'm like, yeah, and I was trying to kill them too. I was better at it. One. I don't hate them. It was a job. It was making sure that the other 20 some odd Americans got to go home to their family. That's what it was about. It ain't about hate. I mean, I've had Muslims try to kill me. I've had Muslims save my life. You know what? I've been in the trenches right side by side with Muslims killing other freaking Muslims. It didn't matter. They were there for their people and they were there to make a difference in others' lives. And honestly, that's what my job, my mission in life is. Through Shadow Warriors, through my ministry, through sharing my love of the Lord, is trying to make a difference in other people's lives.
Absolutely. And before your computer dies, how much are you looking to raise to get that dog compound?
You know, I mean, unfortunately, land around Colorado Springs is expensive. Our goal is to raise, just for the land, is about $500,000. And, you know, people are like, what can you do with less land? We could. But the problem is the zoning requirements then don't allow you to have more than like 3 dogs. So for us to be able to have what we need for the veterans, for our law enforcement, for our first responders, you know, 25, 35 acres is probably the smallest we can go. And anywhere around here, that's probably going to be about $500,000. I've got somebody who's already offered to donate the cement for the floor of the building. I know I can raise the money or get somebody to donate a building, and we can get this thing off the ground by the fall or early, at least before Christmas. If everybody out there kind of reaches out and digs deep and helps out. And that doesn't matter if it's $5 or $5,000 or $50,000. Every little bit helps to make a difference in a veteran's life or a law enforcement officer's life.
So how can people contribute to Shadow Warriors Project?
The best way is to go to shadowwarriorsproject.org. You'll see what we do, who we are, and a lot of what leads us to do what we do on a daily basis. We have a donate capability there. That's the easiest way. Find out who we are, sign up, follow us, tell your friends out there. You know, if one tells two, if two tell two, after a while, we got a shitload of people reaching out to help and make a difference in other people's lives. And know that your money's going to be looked after, taken care of well, and that you're going to be making a difference in a whole lot of people's lives with helping on this big project.
I'll definitely, one thing I'm going to do tomorrow or the next couple of days, I'll definitely on our website, you know, we have a blog, is I'll definitely post a link, and then, you know, we have advertisers on there. We'll definitely post a photo. It'll be on there till the end of time. We'll definitely put a link. So, you know, shadowwarriors.org, shadowwarriorsproject.org. Head over to the Cigar Prop website, our blog. There'll be a link on there in the next day or so. My one final question before your computer dies. Have you on my show? I had the privilege of interviewing Norm Hoot from the Black Hawk Down, the Battle of Mogadishu. Have you had a chance to sit down with Norm?
No, I've never talked with Norm, but I have talked with Kyle Lamb. I don't know if you know who he is.
I'm not familiar with him.
Kyle Lamb was a Delta Force guy, and he was there as well. Those boys, you know. And if Tonto's listening, I won't say this out loud. You know, Rangers are the closest thing there is out there to Marines, but but you know what? I would there ain't nobody else I would rather have other than a bunch of Marines to have my back as a bunch of freaking Army Rangers. Those boys, they love to kick ass, take names, and I mean, they're Marines at heart. They just don't know it.
So if you ever get a chance, like I said, Hooten and Young, they make great cigars. They make, from what everybody says, great bourbons. So hopefully maybe one day you and Norm can sit down, have a cigar, and, you know, chat. Maybe hopefully you guys can partner up with a project or something. I know Norm is, you know, obviously, you know, big in the supporting the military. Yep. So yeah, great guy.
Now, Mark, just to kind of end the show here a little early, because I don't want you to lose the computer during the show, but I am very curious. Are you allowed to smoke a cigar as a contractor in duty? I know military can't, but are you allowed to actually in duty smoke a cigar?
You know, I mean, because I'm my own boss, I can do it pretty much. You know, you got to be respectful of others around and where they're at, you know, and who they are. But, you know, that's just being a decent person. But yeah, we would, like I said, when I was heading in, I'd always grab a couple boxes of cigars of some Cubans on my way in through the Jordanian airport and head into Iraq or wherever. And we would always, I mean, our nighttime thing after getting back from a mission or doing something would, you know, have a bourbon or a scotch and a good cigar, sitting around a campfire, sharing stories with the buddies, with the boys. You can't get much better than that.
No, and I completely agree. And we'll go ahead, stick around, Mark, until after the show for a quick sec. But everybody, if you're willing to give, whether it be $1, $5, $10, $100, or whatever, please jump onto shadowwarriorsproject.org, as they are doing they're doing a job that a lot of the Shadow Warriors get overlooked in a lot of these organizations because they're not direct military, but it's really the Shadow Warriors that have lost the most lives during the Middle East experience or conflict, I should say. That's how the military can say that they haven't lost a lot of people, because it's contractors, it's not military per se.
Over 6,000 contractors killed since since 2001 in
Wow.
probably 50 different countries.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. So if you have the ability, put it on your calendar. If you have a time frame that you could give, but please open your wallets and give to this amazing organization. I know Mark. I sat with Mark for a night. I can tell you your money will be as carefully looked over as he did watching over the people in Benghazi and getting those people out safe. And Mark is an absolutely fantastic person. And if you're in Colorado or want to fly out to Colorado, please, I welcome you to come to our event. Check out Rocky Mountain Cigar Night. All the proceeds, we're looking to get double what we did last year as far as to give over to Shadow Warriors Project, and won't actually officially announce it, but there may be something very, very, very special that will be done at the event if Mark can kind of plan it out and make it happen. So that will be something that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to see. So please come out, Rocky Mountain Cigar Night on eventbrite.com. Buy a ticket. You're going to get cigars, open bar. You're going to have 4 hours to be able to meet the man, the myth, and the legend, Mark Oz Geist. And trust me, in person, he will answer literally everything that you ask him. And he doesn't hold back any punches at all. So thank you, Mark, so much for coming on. And Kevin, thank you so much for always being willing to come on. This was great. For all the effort and time that you put into the show as well, and spending your night with me. And Mark, I appreciate you as well. So Mark, I'll give you final words and we'll end the show.
Something I can't not talk about real quick is the heroes that don't get talked about, and that's the caregivers of our veterans, of our contractors. That's our spouses, our family members, our girlfriends, whichever it is for that guy or gal. They're the ones that are here when we come home and we're broken, that help us pick up the pieces, that deal with us when we're struggling, that are laying beside you when you have them dreams, if you have them. And that's the other side of this. And, my wife has done such a great job of serving them as well, because we bring them out as well and make it special for them, separate from their husbands, because, and I say husbands, but I should just say the caregiver, because it could be the wife taking care of the military husband that's a veteran, or it could be the husband taking care of the wife who is a military veteran. They get overlooked, and being a caregiver, taking care of us when we're sick and we're broken, it's not always easy, because we're not always the nicest people when you're on some of the drugs or you're dealing with pain like we do. So I do got to give the biggest shout out to her, because she stuck with me through everything. She's here taking care of me every day to this day. And a shout out to all those caregivers out there. You're loved, you're respected for what you do, and we haven't forgot you.
Absolutely. And big shout out to Kevin's son, serving this amazing country as well. Wish him the best and safekeeping is coming home. And if you follow Kevin, you always know when his son's around, because pictures are up, smiles are all. Kevin's not a guy that smiles often, but I tell you, that full beard and mustache goes Joker style when his son's around. So
there you go.
Kevin, thank you very much for your family sacrifice as well. And to everybody watching tonight, check out shadowwarriorsproject.org. Check out Eventbrite and search Rocky Mountain Cigar Night if you want to come to Colorado on July 21st. You may see somebody other than Mark potentially at the event that's also on the show. Won't necessarily say who, but potentially. So thank you so much, Mark, for coming on. Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on as well. And to everybody watching, smoke what you like, smoke as often as you can, and have an absolutely great rest of your week. Mark, stick around. Thank you so much, everybody. Peace. Bye.